Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? There we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Just checking to make sure that I have the telephone system set to do not disturb. Why? Because sometimes it rings during the broadcast. So it can ring, but I won't be able to hear it. I can see the flashing light, but I just wanted to make sure I got that done. Let's see. So we broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. It's a call-in number if you'd like to call us today, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And Sharon in Montana sent us a telephone listen line that works. 701-719-0914. 701-719-0914. It's delayed about an hour, but so you can't listen live on that particular listen line. But as soon as Zeno Radio gets ours working live, I'll let you know, and you can use that number as well. There's a link to your instructors on the website, USAPREPARES.com. I'm Vincent Finelli. Nathan is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. Rich Scheben's with us. Welcome, Rich.
Well, thank you, Vince. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing well, and I wanted to thank you for helping me. I was off last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. My mother passed away, and in the middle of the morning. And well, let me tell you the story, and then I'm sure some of our instructors, I know they knew my mom. And so what happened was she was doing just great. Had a wonderful day with her. She wrote out her Christmas cards. And she was hired by John D. Rockefeller because she has such a, and I'm using the word present tense because I'm not sure a person actually dies. Physically, yes, but I think there are some remnants of the person. So I may say present and past tense all at the same time. But John D. Rockefeller hired her to address wedding invitations because her handwriting was so unique when she was much younger. And so she was addressing her Christmas cards, and they looked exactly the same as I remembered when I was growing up. She got that done. We watched a video on the Crown, the monarchy in England, and everything was great. She went to bed, and TJ, Thomas Jefferson, our Mastiff, had a very strange bark in the middle of the night, around 3 o'clock. And I jumped out of bed, and I ran downstairs, and my mother was saying, "Help me." And her voice was really, really shallow. And there was this, like fluid in her lungs. And so we got her on a chair, and our son did a quick internet search of what the symptoms could be, and he said, well, it could be a cold or something you don't want to hear. And I said, it's the one I don't want to hear. And so we put her in a chair, kitchen chair, brought a kitchen chair over, a heavy wooden chair, put her in a chair, carried the chair to the car, and raced off to the hospital. And my wife was in the back seat with her. My son was co-piloting, and I was driving furiously down the road, exceeding probably all speed limits, but there was no one on the road. I mean, literally no one. Hard to believe, but no one was on the road. And it was an hour-long trip. We made it about a half an hour, and she died in the car. And so that's what happened to my mom. She had congestive heart failure for probably since the 80s. And, she was doing very, very well. She would take her vitamins, mineral supplements, and she'd go outside and go to the senior center where they had, bingo and lunch, every once a week. And she did all that. And she would putter in the garden, which she loved doing. And she was an active member of the family. It wasn't like we were running a nursing home here. We were not. She could do her own laundry, put it in the washing machine, hang it up on the line, those kind of things, even at 94. Well, she did die in the car. And we made it to the hospital, and they rushed out with the gurney, with the paddles to restore life, and they wanted to know if we wanted to do CPR. And I said, she's been gone, 20-something minutes easily. And so she was gone. And so we did not do that. And so they kept her at the hospital, and we arranged for the burial. And maybe there's a serious lesson in this. You do not have to have a casket. You can bury a person on your own property if you have, enough property. And we had a family discussion about, are we going to bury my mom on the farm? And if we are, we're going to bring my dad over too, from the cemetery to down the road to bury him on the farm as well. And we have a backhoe, and we can do all that. Well, we talked about it, and I was the only one who wanted to have a family cemetery. Maybe because it's tradition that you don't have a family cemetery in these current times, but I sure would like to have a family cemetery. And at some point we may. And all you have to do is have a family cemetery. But you have to, the disadvantage of it is if you ever sell the property, if it ever leaves the family, the person who buys it will probably put a reduced value on it because it has a cemetery on it, and that's foreign to many people. To me, it's not, because I bought a farm in Virginia with a family cemetery, and I thought it was the nicest thing. I thought, once I got over the initial shock, if you will, of having, people buried on your property. Once I got past that, I thought it was wonderful, because there were generations who were buried on this farm in Virginia. The farm was probably established maybe around 1800. I'm not talking about the 1800s. I'm talking about 1800. And there were slaves buried there. There was a slave cabin there. The master was buried there. The master's children, parents, they're all buried there on this family farm. And I thought it was kind of neat. And the only thing that we had to make sure of was that we didn't keep people out, because you cannot prevent family from visiting those buried in the cemetery. So now that doesn't mean that you have to permit wild parties, but respectful visitation is all acceptable. And I thought it was wonderful. I mean, we would see flowers there. It was maintained by the family. The family would come with a push mower and a weed whacker, and they'd maintain their cemetery, which happened to be on our property, because we bought the farm that was passed down through generations. So that's what I wanted to do, but we didn't do that. But if a person wants to, you do not have to have a coffin. Now, I just want you to know, class, that a funeral is a pretty expensive proposition. When you get married, it's an expensive proposition, or it can be, traditionally. Or it can be inexpensive. It can be a backyard kind of a wedding. And if our daughter decides to get married, I would really like to have a backyard wedding, not the traditional, hall type wedding with all the pomp and circumstance. I'd rather have it just be good friends, family, and in the backyard. Very relaxed. I'd like it to be like that. And when you have a funeral, it can be very expensive. But if you just have a family burial, you can do this. And I'm going to tell you, and probably some are going to think very ill of me when I say this, but I made the decision. She was my mom. And I did not want her body to be altered. I didn't want her lips to be sewn together. I did not want her blood drained out and replaced with formaldehyde. I wanted her to be buried naturally. And that's what we did. Now, if you want, and I believe this is acceptable in a lot of locations, I don't know every location, but a person can be buried in a body bag, and that's what the hospital will put the person in. Then the funeral person, director, can have the body picked up. And then, caskets come in these pretty sturdy cardboard boxes. And cardboard is nothing but ground up wood that's pressed into sheets and corrugated. So the caskets, these elaborate bronze caskets and other caskets, come in these protective boxes that are very substantial. Well, the body bag can be put in that cardboard box, which is typically incinerated for disposal purposes because they're big. And what do you do with them? They're not usable for most things. So a person can be put in a body bag, the body bag put in the cardboard box be put in a vault. And what I decided to do was get the very best vault that I could get, one that would, this heavy 3,500-pound multi-layer painted and treated concrete vault that has a very sticky seal that keeps water out. And that's what I did. So the next thing I want to do is thank Rich Scheben so much for, he received the call early in the morning. Not much notice. And we asked Rich Scheben if he could fill in for me for 3 days while we did what we had to do at the farm. Take care of my mom. Thanks so much. Rich Scheben's with us, and again, Rich, I want to thank you so much for being there. And you know what? I got a chance to listen to you on the air, and I said to Mrs. Finelli, he's there. He's got what it takes to be a broadcaster. He's done a fabulous job. So, some people may think it's really easy to be on the air. I'm not saying it's difficult, but what I will say, and what I do know, is I've helped a number of people who said they wanted to be broadcasters. I've coached them, I've mentored them, and they do it for a short time, and then they give up. So there's more to it than what Mrs. Finelli says. When someone asks, so what does your husband do? She says, he just talks. He just talks. There's more to it than just talking. There's research, there's commitment, there's foregoing things that you might want to do during those times. And radio, the way we do it, there's no safety net. It's done live. We don't record broadcasts and then hit the play button. We don't do a Friday broadcast on Wednesday off the air and then just send it to the network, GCN, where it gets broadcast. We do it live. Now, sometimes we have to do a rebroadcast. Things go wrong. The internet goes down. Digital signal goes down. There are things that happen that cause us to do a rebroadcast. And sometimes on holidays we'll do a rebroadcast so that we have a chance to spend time with our families the way others are doing. So those things call for rebroadcast. But the rest of the time, like right now, we're live. No safety net, no plan B. And if something were to happen right now to our connection from the farm in Missouri to Genesis, Rich Scheben would have a choice. And his choice would be, does he want to take over and wait and figure out while the rest of us are frantically trying to reconnect? Or does he want to tell our engineer that the broadcast needs to go in rerun mode right then and there? Okay? Or if Rich has a connection problem, I have that choice. Do I want to go into rerun mode or do I want to tread water? Do I want to, try to hold the broadcast together with some material that, I can think of off the top of my head? And has that happened? Yeah, it has. It has. There have been times when I've said on the air, I just heard an explosion. I need to go find out what's going on. And at that point, it's I may or may not be back. I don't know. And that kind of thing is heard live. I've had instructors on who have said they've had emergencies, and they have to go right then and there. So that's what radio is really like. And one of the things that I've been asked to do, and I've been dragging my feet on, I think I'm going to continue dragging my feet on this, is to have video along with the audio. Well, I have a radio face, and I don't really want to be doing a television show, if you will, as a radio broadcast. One of the things that I think is really, really nice about radio, well, I grew up with radio and listening to the radio. And radio is the theater of the mind. It's, to me, it has some entertainment value, but in our case, it's educational. We teach things that, well, maybe people aren't thinking about. And we energize the mind. We're trying to raise the bar for our class to be at a higher bar than most classes. We don't want to tell you what to think. We want to teach you to think and explain how we see things and why we see things and why we see what's the truth and why we see what the lies are, so that you can investigate them yourselves and learn the way we're learning. So when I say that we have instructors, every single one of our instructors, including me, we are all students. We're all students, and some of the students are also instructors. If you want to be an instructor, contact us. Rich Scheben's with us. And, Rich, I wanted to share something before we start talking about the economy. This kind of ties to the economy in some ways. So yesterday, before our son left for the big city, Springfield, Missouri, left the farm, I said, can you pick up for me a blood pressure cuff? And it's one of these electronic devices. And I found it, I searched on the internet for the one I thought we'd like. And I said it's $26.99 plus tax. And so you can buy it on the internet, or it says that it's in stock at this particular store in Walmart in Springfield. $26.99. So he went there, and it was $40. 40. And I was kind of surprised. And what he told me was that the store says they don't match prices anymore. Walmart said Walmart does not match prices anymore. Now think about this, class. Who are they matching prices with? It says on the internet at the Walmart website that Walmart on Independence Street in Springfield, Missouri, has this in stock, and you can pick it up today. You had the option when you're on the internet of buying it for $26.99 plus tax, plus $5.99 shipping, or you could go and buy it at the store and pick it up for free. Pick it up for free? What a weird concept that is. That means you go to the store. But now they say you can go get it yourself for free. Well, you've always been able to go get it yourself for free, right? That's nothing new. But they act like that's a big deal. Well, he went to get it himself for free, but they wouldn't honor the price they have on their website. And they said they don't match prices anymore. They don't even match their own prices on the internet. And what the heck is that all about? So they say you can buy it, but it's at a much, 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 much higher price in the store than if you order it on the internet and then go to the store and pick it up. Now, let's talk about Walmart. When they first came out, they were accused of pushing the little guys out of business. And they did. They pushed the little stores out of business. The little stores could not compete because everybody went to Walmart. Heck, you could get it all at Walmart. Why go to 5 little stores when you can go and get everything, including food, at Walmart. Well, Walmart used to, when they rolled out their barcode system for pricing, you would see the price on the shelf. Let's say it was 99 cents. And there was no price sticker on the item. Now, our millennial friends don't really know about this, because it used to be that if you went to a supermarket, there would be a price on the shelf, and there would be a little sticker smaller than a postage stamp that would say 99 cents. And what would happen is you'd bring your basket or shopping cart full of items to the checkout register. You put your items on that little conveyor belt, and the cashier would read the price on the sticker on the item and key in 99 cents, enter. 99 cents, enter. And one by one, the items would be checked out. That was replaced with the barcode scanner. Well, many of us didn't trust the barcode scanners when they first rolled them out. And Walmart would say, I'll tell you what, if the price is wrong, meaning it says 99 cents on the shelf, and you go to the cashier with it and it comes out $1.49, we'll give it to you for free. That enabled us to have more and more confidence in their system. And every once in a while they'd give away a free item because the prices were wrong. Well, then they decided that some of the items were too big to give away for free, like televisions and appliances and things like that. So what they would do is they'd give you $3 back every time they made a mistake on the barcode system. Then they pulled that away. So they stopped giving you the items for free. They stopped with the $3 inconvenience payment that they would make to you for messing up the pricing system and what we thought is they were trying to cheat us, and they probably were at some level. And now they don't even honor the prices that they have on the internet for their own website. And they say, we don't match prices anymore. That's Walmart. So, Rich, I wanted to share that with you. It's really frustrating. Now that they've driven everybody out of business, they don't have to do the same kinds of things to treat their customers well anymore. Now it's, where else are you going to go? Target? I guess you can.
Well, before I address the economy and what you just said, I've been waiting for a while to say you're welcome. And it was my pleasure to be a guest host for you. And I hope next time is under better circumstances, like you're taking a family vacation or something. But I got to say, you said that we don't have a safety net or a plan B, but I do. When I say things or do things that I want people to hear, I immediately start to sing. And when people are shutting off their radios, they're driving off the road, they're going in ditches, purposely trying to hit a telephone pole. In fact, I have a little side job. Canadian outfitters who are wolf hunters, they hire me to sing in the woods because I sound like a wounded moose with his foot stuck in the mud. So I do have a plan B, folks. Just FYI. And my motivation, I want to thank you for the kind words, Vince. I still consider myself an average Joe, non-hyphenated American, and I always will. But what my motive is not to, look or sound good or most people, they do things for three reasons. For the money, they want to be liked, or they want to be famous or infamous. Same thing. And what I'm trying to do is help the bottom 93%. I'm trying to do it for the little people. I'm trying to give ideas and solutions so people can think outside the box, so people can draw a line in the sand, have zero tolerance for political correctness, can use common sense and logic again, can possibly control their own destiny. I'm trying to give information, perspective, and make people realize that we're heading into a very dangerous period in America where robotics, automation, artificial intelligence, and the technocracy that goes with it is going to make it very difficult for the inequality to change. And this is why I talk about things like self-sufficiency and the like, and I use financial, economic, social, and political rationale for my arguments. The demographics, debt, credit situation we're in, the pension fiasco, the valuations, if you want to call it that, is, everything's up in the air right now. Everything's speculation or hedging. Here a hedge, there a hedge, everywhere a hedge. And then guess what happens? Pretty soon, no, McDonald doesn't have a farm because he's so leveraged because he's chasing every little fad and investment out there. But keep in mind, speculation and hedging, as I mentioned last Friday, comes with two other words, and that's solvency and liquidity, which becomes issues. And when the bottom 93% keeps trying to get rich with all these different ideas out there that are often hysteria buying, it's very difficult to gain ground because 85% of Americans, and this is like a 100-year-old statistic, buy high and sell low. The system is made to create inequality. The system is made so that the elite, the status quo, can enjoy the fruit of their labor and have the free time and have the good health so everybody else can be slaves. So the game is rigged, and we have a fascist system where only 4 to 6% of people make their primary income from being self-employed. And this is why we need to talk about economy. We need to keep it at the economic 101 level, which I try to do, not to be condescending to the people, but to try to make them understand what's happening, because the powers that be are trying to make everything so simple, and there's so many moving parts, mostly corruption, manipulation, greed, nepotism, deception. You know, let me try to, okay, I want to give you an example of the simplicity that they try to put forth to the people. And when they talk about the Phillips curve, how many times in the last couple of years have you heard about the Phillips curve? The Phillips curve. Basically, as unemployment goes down, wages go up. The economy is so much simpler than that. It's like defining off-grid living as just by not being connected to the corporate grid, which by definition, that's what it is. But the lifestyle doesn't do the definition justice. And if you visit 100 different off-grid properties or homes, which I have, everyone does things different. You will walk away with 99 different ideas. Most people will have a solar array. Some people will have just a generator. Some people will have hydro, some wind, some combination or hybrid system. Some people could have springs literally flowing into their system, their water system. Everybody does things different. The wood stoves are different. It depends on natural resources, depends on skill sets, depends on what type of exposure on the side of the hill you're living on. It depends on so many different things. So the economy is, in the way I'm reading it, I can give you, for every article that people say the economy is sucking wind, I can give you an article that says it's great. And this is the psyop that we have to read through, because people are trying to sell you products, services, ideologies, make you content and relaxed so you really don't see what's coming. But usually what the powers that be try to do is suck you in. What we have is a hybrid disaster. We have a deflationary spiral, stagflationary consequences because of, and I'll finish that on the other side of the break, Vince, but we have a lot to talk about if we go this direction, and we'll take it on.
And I've got a couple comments as well when you talked about the solar system and how they're all different. And I've got some anecdotal evidence to support what you said firsthand. We'll be right back. Rich Scheben's with us, offgridmontana.com, offgridmontana.com. And Rich, you mentioned off-grid living and how the 100 or so systems that you've seen are all different. Well, I've got some anecdotal evidence I'd like to share. One of our instructors, Bruce K., he called me, about a year ago or so. And I was talking about Deutz tractors, and he's also a farmer. He's an electrical engineer. And we were talking about tractors, and we were talking about off-grid living. He asked me what kind of battery bank I wanted to have, and I mentioned nickel iron. And so he and I decided that we would buy a battery bank of cells, 80 cells, actually it was 81, directly and import them from China. And we did. And although I've never met him, he and I went together on this order, got the batteries, and we built our systems. So we started about the same time. We would talk often on the phone. We would compare notes. So here are two guys who've never met, but we went in together to buy solar panels, and we went in together we split a load of solar panels, pallets of them, and we split a load of nickel iron cells. And we drove our costs down by doing that. It was done on pure trust. I've never met him. He's never met me. And it all worked out just perfectly. But the systems that we built are different. Even though we talked on the phone, off the air, many, many times, sometimes multiple times per week, compared notes. And it was kind of like, not really a contest, but we were building our systems, and we'd say, here's what I've got done. I'd learn what he got done. But what we ended up with is different charge controllers, different inverters, a different battery bank rack, different wiring types. One of us used fuses. The other, I used fuses. He used circuit breakers for the solar array. Even the mounting system was completely different. His solar rack versus ours. And so what I'm saying is you're absolutely right, Scheben. And here are two guys working together to build them, and they're still completely different. Completely different.
Yep.
And I'm not saying one is better than the other. They're just different. They're both pretty darn good, in my opinion. So you're absolutely right. And would you share with our class what you mean by stagflation? Because this is a really, really important point.
Well, there's a lot of important points in Economics 101 that's not being told to the people. And they're creating a lot of illusions on how the economy actually is, and it's really not. What stagflation is what people will say, the opposition who want to fool people say, no, we have inflation. And we do have high inflation on certain things. But for the bottom 93%, the consequences are stagflation for the poor/middle class, and the middle class that's waning and becoming extinct. What it is the economy is sucking wind, is doing poorly, and prices are going up in certain things. And for examples, food, water, healthcare, college, insurance, taxes, lumber in certain areas, housing, stocks, rent, and a few other things. But some of this could be local, some of this could be regional, but generally speaking, that's an issue. Those things are an issue. But keep in mind, those things are, a lot of that list I just gave you is affected by subsidies and money printing. What we have is a hybrid disaster. It's, as I always say, it's a coup against the bottom 93% to govern themselves. And it looks like I'll catch the rest of the other end of the break.
Okay, another way of looking at this class is you have rising prices and wages not rising. Stagnant wages.
Absolutely.
Think about it. How many people do you know who have invited you over or called you up and said, I'm so excited, I just got a raise, another raise, just after the other raise. I'm so excited. Who do you know? Nobody. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Rich Sheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. Offgridmontana.com. Rich, I've been looking at I don't even think you can use these words anymore, but I'm going to use it anyway. Explosive growth of some of the cryptocurrencies. Let me give you an example. Bitcoin, about a year ago, $750. Right at this moment, $18,256. $18,256. Let's go to another cryptocurrency called Litecoin. Litecoin. This is a crypto that I have keen interest in. Well, just yesterday, I'm looking at the chart for one day. Yesterday in the morning, you could have purchased Litecoin for somewhere around $319. Actually, about $317. Yesterday in the evening, it hit $3.75. It moved from $3.19 to $3.75 in a day. Now, right this moment, it's fallen back to $3.55. But let's put this in perspective. It went from yesterday to right now, $3.19 when I looked at it, to at the moment $356. It's an enormous increase in price based on USDs, US dollars, or frauds, Federal Reserve Accounting Unit dollars. And Rich, you and I have been talking off the air, and maybe we should share some of our thoughts as to what all this means. Now,
okay,
yeah,
all right,
you know,
are you
class,
ready?
I just want to put out a disclaimer. Let's put out a disclaimer, class. This is this arena of cryptocurrencies is moving very, very fast at lightning speeds. I don't believe that you are going to be able to, just tap someone on the shoulder and say, I'll tell you what, I'd like to learn more about this. Will you help me? Because anyone who's watching this is watching it second by second. The changes are unfolding very quickly. The nomenclature is foreign to those of us who have spent some time formally being educated, studying, reading economics books, finance books, as I have in the 1970s, 1980s. This is a different world. It's extremely different. And Rich and I are going to talk about the millennials and why they have an advantage over those of us who are older in this arena. But it is fraught with risk. But at the same time, the potential is enormous. Who would not have wanted to buy Standard Oil in its infancy? Who would not have wanted to buy Microsoft in its infancy? Who would not have wanted to buy Google in its infancy? And there's a fraternity, and it's a huge fraternity, worldwide. It's called coulda, shoulda, woulda. You know, I could have done that. I would have done that. I should have done that. But I didn't. So if you are willing to do your own research, and don't believe anybody, including us, don't believe anybody, do your own research. Make the decisions as an informed person. That's the warning. And I mean it very seriously. And I am taking my own advice. I'm doing my own research. I'm verifying everything I can. And it's tough. But I believe that the cryptocurrencies will displace and replace the fraud, the Federal Reserve Accounting Unit dollar, also known as the USD, at some point. Rich, your thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to take over here, Vince. Go ahead and grab a cup of coffee. What I'm going to do is I'm going to enforce your I'm going to enforce your disclaimer here, and I'm going to start by saying I have not bought any. I guess my plan B is to sing in the Canadian woods to bring in wolves for the Canadian outfitters. But I'm going to start with this one article that's on Zero Hedge right now. A cryptocurrency exchange in South Korea collapsed on Tuesday after it suffered a second cyber attack in 8 months and lost a large amount of its digital currency reserves, and this spooked Asian investors who sold Bitcoin and other cryptos. And they show Ether and Bitcoin going down dramatically. So what I'm going to do, folks, I'm just going to try to use common sense and logic. I know what Vince said. What he said is true. It's got a lot of success stories. It's made a lot of millionaires. But I just want to give you some food for thought here. Okay, first of all, we got to think, is this a giant alibi? Is the Federal Reserve and the central banks so desperate that they're going to say, we're going to get rid of our debt, we can't help the people out anymore, it's too bad for people who's on welfare and food stamps? Are they just going to say, well, the value of the U.S. dollar is worthless, and so crypto is taking over, so we're going that way? So you have to ask yourself, is this a giant alibi that's occurring? Now, this is pro-crypto, and I'm going to mix up pro-crypto with con-crypto. The first thing I want to talk about is a new technology that's going to be coming out called hash graph, not hashtag, hash graph. And this is supposed to be more secure and faster and fairer than the cryptocurrency blockchain because of its technology. Now, right now, there's over 1,000 cryptocurrencies on the market. So you have to look at, could this be hysteria buying to create an inflationary situation in cryptocurrencies, which would devalue it? It's also possible. And I've also read plenty of, now Vince said that this is an industry in its infancy, but just like everything, it's a speculation and hedge. Now, the establishment designed this network as per quite a few people. I've read that DARPA and the NSA technology started this, and there was papers that have been unfolded from the late 90s that says this. Now, anything can be hacked or phished if it has a password or a username, from what most people, from what I have read, including hardware wallets. So much has been hacked. Do you remember that German Enigma machine during World War II? Well, we hacked that as well. Eventually, anything can be hacked. So you have to keep that risk in mind. Now, keep also in mind that billions of dollars has been spent by the elites using taxpayer dollars on propaganda by the banks and their liaison control arms to make people, to suck people into investments or certain indices and say, oh, this is never going to crash. If you look at the VIX, the volatility index, it's always close to an all-time low right before a crash. So is this a big suck-in job to take more liquidity from the people? Is this a propaganda job to divide the American people and make them liquidate their precious metals like silver and gold? There's a lot of people right now, not just selling silver and gold, but houses to buy cryptocurrencies. And I always talk about a balance in life. You know, getting out of debt first. That includes car, school loan, and your mortgage. If you are renting, you're not out of debt unless you have an unbelievable amount of cash and cash flow. This is why I say increased GDP does not make happiness. Happiness is built on cash in your savings account and being debt-free, okay? So I'm trying to give you a little bit of the good, bad, and ugly here, but let me tell you what I'm seeing already. I'm seeing real estate assets increase, not just because of the printing of money from the Fed and increased assets in general like equities, but real estate, a lot of people are starting to say, hey, maybe I shouldn't sell my place right now. If I get dollars, or and they're devaluing by the minute, should I ask for it in a cryptocurrency? And the volatility of the cryptocurrency, you could have a closing a month from now, and it could be who knows how many thousands higher, who knows how many thousands lower. So I also see the fact that if DARPA and NSA technology created this, and there's so much talk about decentralization, and there's so much talk about anonymity, I don't see those words really having any definition. They're not relevant. If the establishment actually did create the crypto chain. And what's going to happen when this new hash graph technology comes out with coins? Is everybody going to sell everything and then chase the next investment? This is where the solvency liquidity issue comes in after speculation and hedging that I talk about often. Now, is Bitcoin being kept up because so many criminals are putting dark money into it from real estate in other countries and who knows what else? Pedophilia rings, who knows? You have to ask yourself that question as well. I definitely understand why people want to decentralize from the corrupt central bank system. I get it. But I think there's other things to consider, especially when I've read an article with the UN and some big banks actually want it. Keep in mind, if they say that, there's usually back doors open for manipulation, confiscation, and again, no anonymity. So I understand it's also a process to convert to cash. People are hoarding the cryptocurrencies right now because they're trying to become millionaires. And I'm going to talk more about that on the back end of the break. Vince?
Rich Sheben's with us. And, Rich, I agree with everything you said. I've got a couple comments, but I'll wait until you're done with your thoughts. We're talking about Bitcoin. Okay, Rich, you're talking about your thoughts on the crypto, so please continue, and then I'll have some comments.
Yeah, you bet, Vince. First of all, we got to, I'm going to take a little tangent here, and we have to ask ourselves, because of the credit collapse, is the system and the Fed's desperate? When you look at the yield curve flattening, there's so many articles out there about the yield curve that's going to invert. And what that means is under normal conditions, short-term bonds should not yield more than long-term bonds. In other words, higher interest rates equals longer maturity. Banks need to borrow low and lend high. They need that spread to survive. The higher rate, the higher risks. So what's happening right now, from what I'm reading, fractional reserve lending, which is in a sense money printing at your local bank. They have 10%, for example, of reserves, and they lend out 10 times. Who knows how many these days they're lending out. So this is a debt-based system, and it's at a standstill. So if the banks stop lending, credit growth stops, and the financial bubble pops or stops. So this could be a very timely alibi for the powers that be to create a different system. Now, because of the speed of blockchain versus hashgraph that I talked about earlier, cryptocurrencies will never take over even fiat dollars, probably anywhere in the world, unless a country is so desperate with hyperinflation, like Venezuela, for example. So let me move on to a few other concerns that I have. Keep in mind, anything can be hacked or phished if it's got a password or username, to my knowledge. Now, there's always been talk about a war on cash and a digital currency. And all I see a digital currency doing is bailing out the corrupt monetary policies of the central banks. It's an alibi. You have to ask, does this have intrinsic value? And if everybody's hoarding it, or most people are, and not using it as a purchasing tool, you have to ask yourself, is this a ploy by the powers that be to encourage a lack of tangible production? I think that question needs to be asked, because we're teaching our kids how to push buttons, manage paper, and be politically correct. When we lose tangible production and things that of common sense and logic that has kept our country fed, clothed, and being profitable and productive, you really have to ask, is this the tool for that? Now, what if the Fed, and it doesn't have to be our central bank, it could be any central bank, it could be a George Soros, any NGO, any corrupt corporation or individual, what if they buy billions of dollars and then sell it all at once? That's a big question. Are people going to lose everything they have? And the IRS, I'm reading reports that very small percentage of people are actually reporting their profits. Now, if the IRS goes after these people, we're going to know right off that there's no anonymity. Now, what if the Internet gets shut down? There's so many. Look at all the ransomware. And a lot of this is created by our own intelligence agencies, 17 of them. So I'm not trying to say beware the tulip bulbs, but I am. So what we need to do is just remember, high risk, high reward. I'm not saying I'm not going to get any. I'm just saying these are my concerns. And we're in an economy that needs to be bailed out. As I mentioned Friday, Donald Trump inherited sabotage. He inherited demolition. And there's some things that he has done that hasn't been the best choices. I think he's done a lot of great things, but he hasn't done a lot of great things. I think what we're doing is we have a situation where the elite are playing chess while too many Americans are learning how to play checkers. And we need to look at what the economy's doing. And Vince, if we have time before the end of the show, I want you to ask me one question. We can do it next Tuesday if we don't have time. I want you to ask me with this tax cut, does cutting corporate taxes correlate to higher wages for employees? And if you can remember that, ask me that either at the end of this show or next week, and I want to talk about that a little bit. But please, I appreciate you letting me have my little podium here. Please go ahead and comment.
Yeah.
After the break.
I guess I'm out of time for the comment.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, Rich, what you're saying is all valid. All of it's valid. And I'm going to tell you when we come back what I have done in the crypto world. I'll give you a disclosure. We'll be right back. Class, I'm going to reveal some information about what I have personally done regarding cryptocurrencies. Now, I am not giving any financial advice. I'm just telling you what I've thought about. Rich and I have discussed this off the air. We've discussed some of this on the air. I think, these are my personal opinions. This is not financial advice. And you must do your own research. If you do something that I say I have done, and we all lose money, don't blame me. Don't blame me. I'm not trying to mislead anyone, nor am I trying to lead anyone. I'm just trying to tell you what we have learned. This is a whole new world, this cryptocurrencies. I have a position in Bitcoin, a very small position. I mentioned that previously. And I bought some Litecoins yesterday. They went from $3.19 yesterday to $3.54 today. Now, I had a meeting around the kitchen table with our family. I'm going to disclose something very private, but I think it is germane to this discussion. So Mrs. Finelli was there, and children were there, our children, and they're grown. And Mrs. Finelli thought that, well, maybe we should, instead of spending some money on the farm, buy a Litecoin for each of our children. And I said, this is the first time Mrs. Finelli and I have disagreed. I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. All parents that I know want it better for their children than they've had it. They want to pave the way. They want to make it easier for their children. And that's part of the problem. I said, please don't take this wrong. Everybody's looking at Dad because I'm saying no. Emphatically saying no. Please don't take this wrong, family. And I said, let me tell you how it was when I was growing up. Let me tell you a story. I teach by stories. I teach via stories. I said, when I was growing up in the 1960s, my dad said, well, why don't we go to the bank and let's get a savings account for you. So my dad and I hopped in the car. He drove, of course, because I was very, very young. And he said, here's $5 and we're going to open a savings account. $5. He opened the savings account, and then he taught me about the principle of interest and how at 5 or 5.25%, this can grow. $1 in a year later can become $1.05 or $1.0525. And when I cut lawns, I would make the deposits with my mom or my dad as we went by the bank, and I watched the account grow. Slowly, but it grew because I kept putting money in, and every quarter I would see an interest posting. I managed my own account. And I said, that is what our children need to do. This is moving so fast that they need to get on board and fully research and fully understand to the best of their abilities what is happening with these cryptocurrencies. Either they can embrace it or they can get run over by it. There's potential now to make some substantial profits along with some substantial risks. But if you follow history and you follow logic and you follow honesty and integrity principles and you do your own research, there's some potential here. And I wanted them to see that. But they would not see that if Mom and Dad just said, here you are, here you go, here's your Litecoin, have a nice day. They really need to learn all about it, which means lots and lots of research. That was the discussion that we had. And everybody agreed, including the children. They said, you're absolutely right. You're right. Because when people are handed something, they don't seem to treat it with the same value that they would treat something that they bought with their own sweat, tears, blood, and earned the hard way. So everybody embraced it. They embraced it. We would help them get started. But we would talk about the things we've learned around the dinner table, around the lunch table, around the breakfast table here at the farm. We would share information, ideas, and opinions. But they were in charge of their own destiny. And that's the way it's going to be if you're going to embrace this market, or at least test the market, or at least learn about the market. And here's, again, please, do not take this as a buy into the cryptocurrency statement. It's not. I'm saying learn, learn, learn. And if you decide to buy, that's up to you. I did. Rich has not at this point. Now, by the way, Rich, I sent you a link about a computer that I think is a great value on the internet. If you decide that you... Okay, yeah, good. I just want to make sure you saw that.
I'm looking into that.
Okay. And you're going to need a computer that you use for finance. You're going to use, a specific computer dedicated for this. One that will not be exposed to tampering, malware, viruses, corruption, and so forth, based on your research, based on, you going to different websites that could be... We want to make sure you don't get hacked. So I found a computer that was used. I bought a used one, refurbished, and it's pretty rugged. Found another one for Rich Scheben, a little bit different from the one we bought, but it will work just fine. So those are some things that you're going to want to do. Now, I've got some comments about where I think this is going to take us. Now, we all know that the monarchy in England wants to preserve itself. It's defend and protect the monarchy at all costs. The Queen wants to keep the system going. Heck, what a free ride that is, right? What a great way to go. Well, think about this, class. Do you think the Federal Reserve is in protection mode now because of the threat of the cryptocurrencies? Of course. How about the banking system? Same thing. How about gold? Same thing. Silver? Yep. Retail? Yep. Real estate? Yep. The IRS? Yep. All these institutions that have been set up around the current environment, the status quo, the current system, if you will, the oppressive system, the usurping system, the parasitic system, they all want to protect those systems. It's in their own best interest to protect them. Now, we look at cryptos as, well, heck, it's decentralized. They can't control it. Yet it's digital. Digital leaves footprints everywhere. Anonymity, as Rich said, if you think that you can be anonymous with your transactions in the digital world, you're mistaken. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the fallout from this. Let's say Rich Scheben and I are at the negotiation table. Let's say, for example, he wants a farm that I'm selling. He wants to buy a farm. And I'm selling a farm. I own the farm, and he wants to buy it. This is just hypothetical. So we say, I'll tell you what, how about $100,000? And Rich says, okay, I think that's a fair price. And then we say, all right, when do we want to settle on this? Well, it depends. Depends, Rich, because I need to see, we're going to do this in Litecoin or Bitcoin, right? But where is Litecoin right now? Well, it's up a little bit. And Rich says, well, wait a minute. If I got to do it in Litecoin, that's going to take more Litecoins than I wanted to spend because the price is up. So I'm waiting for the price to go up. He wants the price to go down, but yet we've agreed on an amount that is volatile. How does that happen? How does that happen? And I think that we're going to see fallout from that because the price, while we're sitting at the negotiation table, is moving up and down by the second because of the volatility of the market.
Vince, can I chime in real quick?
Please.
Okay. Folks, I'm not saying that, who knows what's going to really happen, but if you have the opportunity and you're in debt, you don't own your house, the bank owns it, you don't own your car, your school loan, if you do make a small killing in this, I would say reap the profits and then play with the house's money. You can still leave some in there, but don't hoard 100% of it and try to be a gazillionaire because who knows what's going to have value. And like I mentioned earlier, how do we know if the establishment hasn't designed this network? You know, I've read articles about DARPA and NASA technology literally inventing this. So if the powers that be do have backdoors for manipulation and confiscation, if you have the opportunity to get out of debt, I believe the best philosophy to have at this point is a bird in the hand and not two in the bush. Vince?
Okay. I was at the negotiation table with one of our instructors. He wanted to buy a farm. And we were sitting at a restaurant, and it was going to be a private loan from the man selling the farm to one of our instructors. And they were talking about the seller taking back a note. And we were talking about the interest rate for that note. Well, in 1/4 of the time that it took for you to say your last paragraph, the rate of return from yesterday to today on Litecoin moved almost 0.4%, almost 0.5% in less than a paragraph that you spoke. That's how volatile this market is. And I was watching it as you were speaking. Absolutely true. Rich, you've got some thoughts?
Well, think about margin debt. Margin debt's an all-time high in America right now. And basically it means is that people are taking from one part of their portfolio to invest in something else. It's kind of analogous to a home equity loan where you have a certain amount of equity in your home, you go back out and get a second mortgage or another mortgage on that house for a portion of it, and you're back in deeper debt. That's called leveraging in the wrong direction. So when I see so many red flags happening in this economy, you just look at our trade deficit. We've been in a trade deficit basically since like 1973. That means we're buying more stuff from foreign countries than we sell. So as that trade deficit grows more and more every year, and we see a lot more foreign ownership on American property, land, ports, equities, and we have at home a domestic consumption bubble with a Trojan horse bubble with a very disturbing new industry coming our way regarding robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence. I see the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. So if you're going to do anything, cryptocurrencies, anything, I really recommend that we have to change our style of strategy regarding investing, and that is, if you have the cash, you can go spend it. You can go to Vegas and have a pretty girl delivering drinks, and you're still gambling. And that's all this is. It's high risk, high reward. No one knows where this is going. I'm not saying I'm never going to do this. I'm just saying I had a list of objections or food for thought, not even objections. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but Vince mentioned a disclaimer earlier before we started talking about this. I thought I would solidify that disclaimer. Vince?
Yes. And, however, this is a wild ride. You can learn a lot, and the potential is unbelievable. I mean, just Litecoin yesterday, 11.25% gain since yesterday. That's 100 times. That's 100 times what a person would get in a savings account. Literally. I mean, I looked at our savings account percentage, and it's like 0.1%. I mean, are they kidding? Are they kidding? And then what happens is we get these letters in the mail that say your account's been inactive. So we're going to charge you a fee per month, $5 a month, because you're inactive. So, you park your money, you don't have transactions, the bank gets to use it for free, and then they charge you monthly for being inactive. So with all the things that these banks have been doing to try to steal money from us, every way they can, and they have fee after fee after fee. You want to do a telephone transfer? There's a fee for that. You want a letter of credit? There's a fee for that. You're over your overbalance? There's a fee for that. You're late? There's a fee for that. I mean, they charge you fees for every possible thing they can think of, even things that you think are ridiculous. Well, they have put themselves in jeopardy because the rest of us are saying, you know what? This is nuts. I'll be in control of my own destiny. Who the heck needs a bank anyway? And because of that, people are jumping onto the cryptocurrency bandwagon. They really are. Because they're seeing fantastic gains. Even though there's fantastic risk. They're looking at it and saying, you know what? This thing is great because if I want to buy something from China, I believe in the future we're going to be able to transact easily. Just send cryptocurrencies through the internet. It will prevent wars. It will eliminate borders. There's a lot of positives that go along with this. And then we're going to realize that a lot of the negatives that we've seen in our lives, like wars, are created because of greed. Greed. A few people controlling most of everything. Well, the cryptos eliminate a lot of the control. Like Wall Street. Like banking. Yeah. Like the Federal Reserve. Yeah. It's decentralized. And that's why the millennials, I think, are going to embrace it. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you. Rich Shealy, thank you so much.